Hello, hello, hello. Oh, that might help. That's one if I ever couldn't be professional. Hi there, Ingrid. Hi there, Zrax. How you guys doing? Let's see. So, I am wondering. Let's see if somebody might be able to say hello. Please, fucking tell me it works. Because it's my first official test of it live. Okay, I can deal with the delay. Where are you? And now we wait. Oh boy. Well, while I'm waiting for that, let me go ahead and get this set up. There we go. There's my ambiance. So I'm thinking that redeem is not working. That is kind of frustrating. Because okay, let me try this. Come on. Break everything. Oh, I know, I already have. I already fucking have, it seems. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. There we go. Well, let's pick a different voice for you. Let's try this one. There we go. So, I'm probably gonna regret having him there. Please don't abuse him too badly. uh,
She grabbed my hand, asked me what I think about loves lie deep in our woods.
there we go. on so I can properly see my book. So, oh fuck, that's right. I also need to start recording. And I gotta figure out how to download the VODs in the last 2 weeks. So, here we go. Hopefully you all are doing fine. We are continuing on Spice and Wolf, Volume 1. Starting off today on Chapter 4. Probably do Chapter 5, maybe Chapter 6 today. So, fair enough, Scorpion. Fair enough. Yeah. We'll do at least Chapter 5, maybe Chapter 6. I say that because that wouldn't leave all that much left. Ooh. Another 80 pages. That would mean the stream after kind of short. If I do that. I know that feel. I know that feel. Yeah, fuck it. Let's go. Come on, still. Y'all are fucking fantastic. Thank y'all for being here. The whole of the Malone Company went from shocked to vigilant upon Lawrence's visit. Unsurprisingly, as Lawrence proposed that together they deal with the plot behind Zaren's swindle. If Lawrence had found Zaren's initial proposal difficult to believe, the Malone Company found Lawrence's scheme that much harder to swallow. And, of course, there was a matter of the furs. They weren't so angry as to have it color future transactions, but the supervisor did smile ironically upon seeing Lawrence. Even so, what spurred the Malone Company into tentative action was seeing the contract that Lawrence had signed with Zaren before the public witness, proving that they could investigate the deal as much as they wished before proceeding. Lawrence had also asked them to check into Zaren's background, impressing upon them that this was no simple fraud. If they did so, the Malone Company would naturally have to wonder why the plan was so intricate for a mere swindle. They'd want to investigate it simply for their own future reference, Lawrence anticipated. And he was right. After all, if everything Lawrence said was true, the Malone Company stood to reap enormous profit. The Malone Company, like any company, was ever watchful for a chance to get ahead of its competitors. Lawrence's expectation that they would overlook a proposal's shadiness if it promised sufficient gain was correct. Having sparked an initial interest in the plan on their part, Lawrence's next task was to prove Zaren's existence. He and Horo hurried to the Yorin Tavern that evening and informed the barmaid that they wished to meet Zarin. As expected, Zarin did not frequent that place every night, and the barmaid told Lawrence that he had yet to come by that particular day. But at length, as the sun sank, Zarin arrived. Lawrence made idle merchant chatter about this subject and that, and all the while, a Malone employee sat at a nearby table, eavesdropping. In the days to come, the Malone Company would investigate Zarin and determine whether Lawrence's proposal was true or not. Lawrence believed that Zarin had to have the support of a powerful merchant. If that was true, it'd be easy for the Malone Company to trace. There was, however, a problem. Will we be in time? Horo asked upon returning them to their inn that evening. Just as Horo had suggested. Oh, fuck me. Damn it. I hate how sensitive some of these buttons are. I fucked up my recording. I'm just gonna redo that first page because we're only on page 2 today. Fuck me. So.
She lies in the silence. She grabbed my hand, asked me what I think about the house lighting in
Really wish that I'd be able to talk to them more. Okay. The whole of the Malone Company went from shocked to vigilant upon Lawrence's visit. Unsurprisingly, as Lawrence proposed that together they deal with the plot behind Zarin's swindle. If Lawrence had found Zarin's initial proposal difficult to believe, the Malone Company found Lawrence's scheme that much harder to swallow. And of course, there was the matter of the furs. They weren't so angry as to have it color future transactions. But the supervisor did smile ironically upon seeing Lawrence. Even so, what spurred the Malone Company into tentative action was seeing the contract that Lawrence had signed with Zarin before the public witness, proving that they could investigate the matter. Could investigate the deal as much as they wished before proceeding. Lawrence had asked them to check into Zarin's background, impressing upon them that this was no simple fraud. If they did so, the Malone Company would naturally have to wonder why the plan was so intricate for a mere swindle. They'd want to investigate, simply for their own future reference, Lawrence anticipated. And he was right. After all, if everything Lawrence said was true, the Malone Company stood to reap enormous profit. The Malone Company, like any company, was ever watchful for a chance to get ahead of its competitors. Lawrence's expectation that they would overlook a proposal's shadiness if it promised sufficient gain was correct. Having sparked initial interest in the plan on their part, Lawrence's next task was to prove Zarin's existence. He and Horo hurried to the Yorin Tavern that evening and informed the barmaid that they wished to meet with Zarin. As expected, Zarin did not frequent that place every night, and the barmaid told Lawrence that he had not yet come that particular day. But at length, as the sun sank low, Zarin arrived. Lawrence made idle merchant chatter about the subject, this subject and that, and all the while a Malone Company employee sat at a nearby table, eavesdropping. In the days to come, the Malone Company would investigate Zarin and determine whether Lawrence's proposal was true or not. Lawrence believed that Zarin had to have sufficient... Lawrence believed that Zarin had to have the support of a powerful merchant. If that was true, it'd be easy for the Malone Company to trace. There was, however, a problem. Will we be in time? Hodo asked upon returning to their inn that evening. Just as Hodo suggested, the problem was time, even if Lawrence's expectations were correct. Depending on the circumstances, they could miss a chance to realize any gain. No, there would be profit either way, but perhaps not enough to induce the Malone Company to act. Without them, it would be difficult for Lawrence to turn profit on his own. On the other hand, if the Malone Company moved quickly, the potential gain would be stunning. Milo, what do you want? In or out? Pardon the kitty. Hi, buddy. Oh, fuck. I might know. Oh my god. Stop. If you want up here, get up here. Otherwise, stop mowing for attention. Milo. Thank God both the boys are in here now. I'm sorry, everybody. And a couple of visitors that are choosing to interrupt a little bit of the stream. Lay down. Okay. Here we go. And continuing on page 121. Both his own plan and the plan he suspected Zarin of being a part of depended on time. We should have enough time. That's why I came to the Malone Company in the first place. By candlelight, Lawrence poured some wine he'd bought at the tavern into a cup. He looked down at the cup briefly before draining half of it in one go. Hodo was sitting cross-legged on the bed. She drank her cup dry and looked at Lawrence. Is this company really so capable? She asked. Doing business in foreign countries requires very keen ears. Hearing merchants talking in a bar or customers in the marketplace. If they weren't much better at collecting information than their competition, they'd never have been able to open up branches in foreign countries, much less have those branches flourish. The Malone Company is very good at this sort of thing. Investigating someone like Zarin is child's play for them. Lawrence poured more wine for Hodo at her urging as he spoke. By the time he finished, Hodo had already drained her cup again. It was astonishing. Huh? What is it? Odo asked, staring listlessly off in the distance. At first, Lawrence thought she must have been pondering something, but soon it was clear that she was merely drunk. You've had quite a bit, he said. The charms of wine are many. I suppose this is a good vintage. Normally I don't drink anything so fine. Is that so? When there's no money, I'll drink wine thick with grape drippings. Wine's so bitter it can't be drunk without adding sugar, honey, or ginger to it. Wine transparent enough to see the bottom of the cup is a true luxury. Hearing this, Hodo looked vaguely into her cup. And I thought this was normal. Ah, well, you're higher and mightier than I. Hodo's expression stiffened. She set her cup down on the floor, then immediately curled up into a tight ball on the bed. Her reaction was so sudden that Lawrence could only look on in shock. He assumed that it wasn't simply because she was now sleepy. What's wrong? He asked, not having the faintest idea what her problem was. But Hodo's ears didn't so much as twitch. He said nothing more as he racked his brain trying to figure out her problem. And he finally hit upon it. The conversation he had with her when they had first met. Are you angry because I said you have more status than I do? Lawrence had demanded to see Hodo's wolf form. She said she hated being feared. She also despised being celebrated as some kind of deity. Lawrence remembered a song he'd heard from a traveling minstrel. It claimed that the reason a god needed a festival every year was because it was lonely. I'm sorry, I didn't mean anything by it. Hodo didn't move. You're how shall I say it? You're nothing special. But wait, no, that's wrong. You're not a commoner. Ordinary? Oh, that's not it. Lawrence became more and more agitated as he failed to find the right words. All he wanted to say was this Hodo wasn't special, but he simply couldn't articulate that. As he continued to cast about for something to say, Hodo's ears finally pricked. Then he heard her snigger slightly. Hodo rolled over and smiled indulgently at Lawrence. How inarticulate. You'll never attract a female that way. Lawrence immediately remembered a time when he had stayed over at a certain inn, waiting for a blizzard to pass. Became taken with a girl there. She flatly rejected him. For no reason other than the one that Hodo gave. He was desperately inarticulate. The sharp-eyed wolf soon discerned this. I was right, eh? He chuckled. Still, that was immature of me. Lawrence softened at Hodo's apology, and he offered his own again. I'm sorry. I do truly dislike it, though. Younger wolves were friendly enough, but there was always a line. Weary of it. I left the forest, I suppose. Hodo looked off in the distance, and then down at her hands again. I was looking for a friend. Hodo gave a self-deprecating smile. A friend, eh? Lawrence would have thought this topic unpleasant for her, but Hodo's answers had been strangely upbeat, so he asked a question that was on his mind. And did you find one? Hodo smiled bashfully and did not immediately answer. Given her expression, her answer was obvious. She smiled as she was thinking of a friend she'd made. Yes. But Lawrence didn't find her happy nodding at all funny. He is a fellow from the village of Paslow, she continued. Oh, the one whose wheat you borrowed. He's a bit foolish, very cheerful. He wasn't the least bit surprised when he saw my wolf form. I suppose he was a bit odd, but he's a good fellow nonetheless. Nope. Damn it. To hear her speaking as though of a loved one, Lawrence wrinkled his nose, but hid it behind his wine cup. He didn't want her to see. He really is a fool, though. Sometimes I'm at a loss. Hodo spoke happily, seeming slightly bashful to be discussing the past. He no longer looked at Lawrence, but hugged her tail, playing absently with its fur. She let out a childish giggle and tumbled back on the bed, sounding for all the world like a child sharing a secret with a friend. She was probably just tired, but to Lawrence's eyes, it seemed as though she had left him behind and was letting her memories flood over her. There was no reason to rouse her, though, and so with a small sigh, he drained his wine cup. Friends, eh? He murmured, then placed the cup on the table and stood. He walked over to the bed and drew the blanket up over Hodo. Her cheeks were slightly flushed as she slept innocently. But the longer he looked at her, the more clouded his thoughts became. So he turned his back to her and headed for his own bed. But as he blew the tallow candle out and lay down, he felt a certain regret. He wished he'd claimed a lack of money and gotten a room with a single bed. Lawrence sighed more deeply this time, as he faced away from her. If his horse had been there, it probably would have sighed at him too, he thought. Okay. Taking a small break. Good morning, Cat. Hopefully the stream went well with everybody last night. I was lurking for as long as I could before I went to sleep. So, a bit of an update with that you saw it already. He has one hell of a delay. So, let's see if I can get him to go. Well, there he is on screen right now. Come on. Come on. It's when he starts, the delay is like almost non-existent. But fucking hell. There you go. And to play it again, I'll wait until he goes away. There you go, cat. See? You didn't hear any. Oh, fucking hell, damn it. 1 second. Let me actually get that. You know what? Let's go desktop audio. I gotta figure out a new way to.
Wow.
She lights in the silence.
There you go.
She grabbed my hand, asked me what I think about.
Audio output capture.
My life will never go on without.
Oh, you're not the one I want. Delete.
Although feels like falling down in the deep. I know I stay.
Okay. So let's try a new input capture.
This feeling in my heart and the
Uh-oh. Oh no. What happened? There we go. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna use desktop audio while I'm doing these streams. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Oh, let's not fuck that up again. So, I'm wondering what personality you guys will give Fauci. Little shit who's laying over in Dima's chair right now.
I stay.
Oh no, oh no, no, no. I should be worried about that one. I need to work on getting it to where it. Yeah. Calibrate. Frequency gain, volume gain.
She lights in the silence. She grabbed my hand, asked me what I think about. The house lies deep in the woods.
Okay. You have. Oh no. Oh no. Well, here we go. We accept your proposal, said the head of the Malone Company, Pazio branch. Richten Marheit, in an even tone. It had only been 2 days since Lawrence had come to the Malone Company with his proposal. The company was indeed very efficient. I am very grateful. May I assume you've discovered who is backing Zarin? He has the support of the Medio Company. I hardly need mention that they're the second largest company in the city. The Medio Company, eh? Based in Pazio, Medio had many branches. They were the largest agricultural broker in Pazio, particularly for wheat. They were all the more impressive for having their own ships at which to move their product. Oh, hi there, Cam. We believe there is a still larger figure behind the Medio Company. With their resources alone, it would probably be impossible to enact the plan you described. There's probably a nobleman operating behind the Medio Company, but there are many such figures who deal with them. And we've been unable to narrow down to a single person. But as you yourself said, it won't matter as long as we're the first to act. Marheit smiled shyly, or slyly, showing a confidence born of having immense resources, or having the immense resources of the Malone Company to call on, the likes of which Lawrence could barely imagine. Their main branch was patronized by none but royalty and a high priest. They had nothing to fear from a deal like this. It was important for Lawrence not to betray any temerity. In negotiation, showing weakness or servility was tantamount to losing. He had to be bold. He replied in an even tone. Well then, shall we discuss how to split the profits? Okay, I don't have the images from Hope, so in order to do what I did before, I shall take a picture of the artwork on page and show on screen as I get booped apparently. Why am I getting booped again? God damn you guys. No. I am trying to do something. Make this more immersive. Why you do this to me? Open link. Bring over here. And... God damn it. God damn it. He got me fucking distracted. And I said the wrong goddamn... Fuck you guys. Fuck you guys. Okay. The page I'm on in the book has this image. It went without saying that these negotiations would give rise to his dreams. Meh. I know, it's not a very pretty person. But I am still sharing them as I get to them. God fucking damn it, move. Oh, Tucker has vibes. Seeing off, I mean, he's a representative for a trading company, so he's a yeah. Honking the picture, fair enough. Seen off by all the employees in the Malone Company, branch except the boss, Lawrence left humming a tune, unable to suppress his happiness. He'd proposed that the company give him 5% of its profits from the currency exchange. This was a mere 1/20th of the take, but Lawrence couldn't help smiling. After all, the Malone Company, if the Malone Company moved as he suggested, the amount of Trenny silver that could be brought up was not 1 or 2,000, but rather 200,000 or 300,000. If, as the rough estimate suggested, they exacted a 10% return from the deal, Lawrence's share could exceed 1,000 coins of pure profit. If he topped 2,000 coins and wasn't too extravagant, he would be able to set up a shop in a town somewhere. However, when compared to the gain the Malone Company was anticipating, the profit made from unloading the silver coin was a mere bonus. They moved as a company, so such profits were insignificant. Lawrence could never actually hold that kind of gain. It was simply too huge and would never fit into his purse. But if the Malone Company could realize a profit, Lawrence would be owed a significant debt. And once he opened his shop, he could make large profits on that loan. So it was no surprise that he was humming so cheerfully. "You seem pleased," said Hodo, finally at the end of her patience as she walked beside him. "I'd like to see a man who wouldn't be pleased at a time like this. This is the greatest day of my life," Lawrence gestured expressively. The gesture matched his mood, as if he were ready to catch anything in those outstretched arms. The shop he'd long dreamed of opening was right before him. "Well, I'm glad it's going so well," said Holo, listlessly. Her mood in stark contrast to Lawrence's. She covered her mouth with her hand. It was nothing. She was merely hungover. "I told you to go sleep in the hotel if you're feeling unwell. I was worried you'd get sucked into something unsavory unless I came with you." "What do you mean?" "Why, precisely what I had said." Then she proceeds to burp. "Honestly, just bear up a little longer. There's a shop ahead. We'll rest there." "All right." Odo nodded, with a vulnerability that seemed deliberate, and grabbed hold of his outstretched arm. Wise wolf or not, one could hardly accuse her of having any self-restraint. Lawrence, at a loss, muttered honestly again. Odo had no response. The shop they entered was a tavern attached to a small inn. Though it was ostensibly a drinking establishment, it specialized in light meals and morning to night, had a constant stream of merchants and travelers that used it as a rest stop. It was about a third full when they entered. "Juice for me, or juice for one, and any kind's fine. And bread for two," said Lawrence. "Coming right up," said the shopkeeper behind the counter cheerfully, and repeated the order to the kitchen. Lawrence listened to the shopkeeper as he led Hodo to an empty table inside the tavern. Hodo's manner was more kitten than wolf as she sprawled over the table. Fucking adorable sounding. The walk from the Malone Company exacerbated by the fatigue of the alcohol working its way through her system. Your tolerance is far from weak. You drank a lot yesterday, said Lawrence. Hodo's ears pricked under her hood at Lawrence's statement, but she seemed to lack the energy to look at him. She groaned. Here you are. Apple juice and 2 servings of bread. The bill? You'll pay now. You'll pay now then? It comes to 32 loot. 1 moment, please, said Lawrence, opening the coin purse as he was attached to his waist and rummaging inside. As he collected the black coins that could be easily mistaken for bronze, the shopkeeper noticed Hodo's condition and smiled ruefully. A hangover, eh? Too much wine, said Lawrence. Such are the mistakes of youth. It's the price you... It's the same with drinking as it is with anything else. There's a price. Plenty of young merchants stagger out of here with pale faces. Any traveling merchant was indeed had experienced this a few times. Lawrence himself was guilty of it on a number of occasions. Here you are, 32 loots. So it is. You should rest here a while. I take it you couldn't make it all the way back to your own inn? Lawrence nodded, at which point the shopkeeper laughed heartedly and then retreated behind the counter. Have some juice, said Lawrence. It was pressed at just the right time. Hodo raised her head lethargically. Her features were so fine that even her pained expression had a certain charm. No doubt Wise would have been happy to take the day off to nurse her back to health. Even the slightest smile from her would have been thanks enough. Lawrence chuckled at the thought, as Hodo sipped the juice and regarded him strangely. I've not been hungover in centuries, sighed Hodo, after drinking half the juice and regaining a bit of vigor. A hungover wolf is a sad sight indeed. I suppose I can imagine a bear drinking too much. But a wolf? Bears often took bags filled with fermenting grapes hanging from the eaves of buildings. They had to be fermented to make wine, and as they did, they exuded a sweet scent. There were even stories of bears making off with bags only to later collapse drunkenly in the forest. Do you need a horny bonk bat? Wait, what? Horny bonk bat for what? Who? Excuse me? Oh, so we are away from this guy. Let me take that off. This photo. No. No, you don't. It's probably bears I drink with the most in the forest, said Hodo. There's a bit of tribute from humans, too. Just in case you have... Oh, geez. The idea of bears and wolves drinking wine together sounded like something of a fairy tale. What would the church make of this if they overheard? No matter how many times I'm hungover, though, I never seem to learn. Humans are the same way, said Lawrence, the ruefully grinning Hodo. Now that you mention it, was I wrong to say it? Or what was I going to say? I had something to tell you, but now it's gone. I feel like it was something rather important too, said Horo. Well, if it's that important, you'll remember eventually. I suppose. It's no good. I can't remember, she said, slumping back on the table and closing her eyes. She probably felt like this all day. The shopkeeper hadn't said it, but it was a good thing they weren't about to depart. The wagon shaking wouldn't make her feel any better. Anyway, all we have to do is leave the rest of the Malone Company. Good things come to those who wait. Just rest until you feel better. It's so undignified, said Horo, sounding even more pathetic than before. She would likely feel ill for some time yet. I suppose you'll be off all day then. It's pathetic, but you're right, she answered, still sprawled out on the table, opening a single eye to look at Lawrence. Did you have plans of some kind? Well, I was thinking of doing some shopping after checking in with the company. Shopping, is it? You can go on your own. I'll rest here a while, then return to the inn on my own, said Horo, raising her head and sipping on the apple juice again. Or what? Did you want me to come along? Her teasing by now was standard. Almost a greeting, though Lawrence simply nodded. Oh, you're no fun. Horo pouted at Lawrence's tranquility, sipping some of these words perfunctorily at her drink. She must have expected him to become flustered, but even Lawrence could maintain his composure at times. Lawrence couldn't help smiling down at Horo again as he chewed on a piece of bread. I was thinking of buying you a comb or a hat. Perhaps some other time. Horo's ears twitched underneath the cloak. Just what are you planning? She asked, her eyes half lidded. But watching Lawrence carefully nonetheless. Lawrence could hear the swish-swish of her restlessly twitching tail. Apparently she was worse than he expected at hiding her thoughts. What a way to talk. As the saying goes, one has to be even more careful with meat in one's mouth than meat that's about to be taken away. Hearing Horo's bitter words, Lawrence drew close to her face and whispered into one ear. If you're going to act the prudent wise wolf, at least do something about your restless ears and tail. Surprised, Horo felt for her ears. Oh, he said. That should make us even, said Lawrence with a hint of arrogance. Horo glared at him, thin-lipped and frustrated. You've got such lovely hair. It seems a shame for you not to have a comb for it. He was happy having finally gotten the best of her. But if he pushed, it was quite possible she'd put him in his place again. However, on hearing Lawrence's words, the bored-looking Horo sniffed and sprawled across the table once more. Oh, you're talking about my hair, she said shortly. All you do is bind it back with hempen string. You don't even comb it. My hair isn't important. A comb would be nice, though. For my tail. The swish swish sound could be heard after she spoke. Well, if you say so. Lawrence did think that her flowing silken hair was beautiful. And hair of any kind that was so long was so very rare. It was difficult for anyone other than nobility to be able to wash their hair in hot water daily. So having such long, beautiful hair was a mark of high birth. So, like anyone else, Lawrence had a weakness for a girl with long, beautiful hair. Hodo's hair was so lovely that few among even nobility could match it. Yet she seemed not to understand its value at all. If she were able to hide her ears with a veil, rather than a heavy cloak, and wear fine robes instead of rough clothes of a traveling merchant, she'd be an equal of any maiden from a minstrel's poem. But Lawrence shied away from saying so. There was no telling how she'd react after all. So then, when will you buy me this comb? Hodo looked at Lawrence from her prone posture on the table, her eyes shining with a certain anticipation. I thought you didn't need one, said Lawrence without rancor, his head cocked slightly. I never said that. I would like a comb, a fine-toothed one, if possible. Lawrence didn't see the point of buying a comb if it wouldn't be used to comb hair. In his mind, a fine brush of the sort used by weavers would be best for her tail. I'll buy you a brush. Shall I introduce you to a good weaver? It is best to leave fur to the experts with specialized tools. After all, Lawrence is only half serious, but when he finished speaking,
Hello
he looked at
there.
Hodo. His voice caught. Hi there, Omniwolf. She was angry. So angry she was gnashing her teeth. You would treat my tail as a simple piece of fur, she said, her intonation flat. Surely not because she was afraid the talk of tails would be overheard by other patrons. Lawrence winced at her vehemence. But Hodo looked as unwell as she had all day. There was a limit to how much she could counterattack. Cannot take this anymore, she said. Lawrence suspected her threats were empty. He imagined that she might try crying, so he nonchalantly drank some apple juice. "You going to throw a tantrum now?" he asked, a note of accusation in his voice. Naturally, his resolve would waver if she actually burst into tears, but he didn't say this. Perhaps chastened by his words, or possibly for some other reason, she opened her eyes slightly to regard Lawrence and then looked away. Her childish demeanor was rather charming. With a small smile, Lawrence mused that it would be nice if she were always like this. Hodo was silent for a moment. Then, in a small voice, she said, "I can't take it. I have to vomit." Lawrence almost tipped the cup of apple juice over as he scrambled to his feet and called out to the shopkeeper to bring a bucket. Okay, let's go ahead. The next ad is about to play. Let's go ahead and get that out of the way. I'll play a long one. Just get those out of the way. Okay. Oh, damn. Yeah, that's worth a shot. You and you. Let's bring these people up for lurk.
She lights in the silence. She grabbed my hand, asked me what I think about the house light deep in our woods. My life will never go on without you.
There we go.
Although feels like falling down in the deep. I know I stay.
Uh,
This feeling in my heart and the breeze. We're frozen the time like
okay. So, how's everybody doing right now?
we walked in the silence. She grabbed my hand, asked me what I think about. But you know what? You know. I know. I stay. Remember this feeling in my heart and the breeze. We're frozen the time like endless.
So, how's everybody doing this morning? If you guys would like, you can also play Cards Against Humanity while I'm reading. Whoever is a mod who will activate the card is more than welcome to pick the winners. You don't have to be silent. This is a library. Fair enough. Okay.
Ask me what I think about.
Here we go. And restarting. You having fun back there, Milo? Jeez. Both the cats have a bell in their collar, and I just heard his bell going crazy because he was scratching. He was scratching right near his collar. Well, after the sun had set in the west and the clamor from outside, from outside his window had subsided, Lawrence looked up from his desk, pen in hand, and he'd raised both arms and stretched expansively. His back popped gratifyingly, and he turned his head left and right to work out the kinks in his neck, which also popped. He looked down at his desk. On it was a sheet of paper with simple plans for a shop, the town it would be situated in, the goods it would sell, and plans for its expansion. Written separately were construction cost, plans for securing citizenship, and a variety of other anticipated expenditures. It was a plan for realizing his dream to own a shop. Even a week ago, this remained a fantasy. But since Lawrence had made the deal with Malone Company, it suddenly felt much more imminent. If he could bring in 2,000 trenny, then after selling some ornaments and jewels that amounted to a savings, be able to open a shop. And Lawrence would be a traveling merchant no longer, but a town merchant. Milo, I love you. Please lay down. Milo, get your tail off my microphone. Milo, lay down, please. Milo. Milo. I love you. Please. Please lay down. Thank you. No. Put the butt back down. There you go. What's that sound? While Lawrence had been absorbed in gazing at the picture of the shop he'd drawn, Odo had at some point awoken. Her eyes were still blurry with sleep, but she appeared mostly recovered. She looked at Lawrence, blinked a few times, and dragged herself out of bed. Her eyes were slightly swollen, but she looked well enough. How do you feel? Better. A bit hungry, though. If your appetite's back, you must be fine, said Lawrence, smiling and indicating the bread on the table. It was a dark rye bread, the worst, cheapest bread you could get, but Lawrence enjoyed its bitter flavor and bought it frequently. Unsurprisingly, Hodo made her displeasure with the bread known after a single bite, but ultimately gave up since there was nothing else to eat. Is there anything to drink? The water jug's right there. Hodo checked to see if the jug actually contained water and, after taking a drink, moved next to Lawrence as she munched away on the bread. Drawing of a shop? My shop. Oh, not bad, said Hodo, looking intently at the papers she ate. When traveling in the country, whose language he didn't speak, Lawrence would use drawings to make deals. Sometimes he simply couldn't remember the name of a particular commodity, and interpreters were not always available, hence most traveling merchants were pretty good at drawing. Whenever Lawrence turned a healthy profit, he would draw a picture of his future shop. It made him feel even better than drinking wine. And while he had confidence in his drawing abilities, it was nice to be praised. What's this writing? Location and expense planning. I don't expect it to go exactly like this, of course. You've drawn parts of a city too, I see. What city is it? None in particular, just an idealized city for my shop. Oh, you've been very detailed here. I suppose you're planning to open it soon? If the deal with the Malone Company goes well, I will probably be able to. Hodo nodded, not looking terribly excited at the idea. She popped a piece of bread in her small mouth, then walked back over to the table. Lawrence imagined that the ensuing gulping sound was her finishing the water. And it's every traveling merchant's dream to have a shop. I'm no different. I know. You've even gone so far as to sketch out your ideal city. So you must have done this many times before. When I draw it, I feel that it will happen someday. An artist I knew long ago said something like that. That he wanted to paint all the scenes before him. Put a bit into a second slice of bread and sat in the corner of the bed. I doubt the artist would have fulfilled his dream even now, but it seems that yours is getting closer. Indeed, when I think about it, I can hardly stay still. I want to run around the Malone Company, swatting the ass of every employee I see. It was a bit of an exaggeration, but far from a lie. Perhaps that was why Hodo refrained from making fun, simply chuckling and saying, "I hope your dream comes true then." Oh. I'm so glad I suggested that. That is... Actually, hey Kat, did you ever see the tag for Cam's new swimsuit? It's one of those little clickbait posts on Twitter. It's like, hey, your third at or your whatever at has to wear this. She continued, "Still, is having a shop such a good thing? Can't you do well as a traveling merchant?" If you profit, sure. Hodo cocked her head slightly. What else would there be? A traveling merchant might make the rounds between 20 or 30 towns. If you don't keep moving, you won't make any money at all. Most of your year is spent in a wagon. Lawrence sipped a bit of wine from the cup on the table. The life being what it is, you don't really make any friends. Just business associates. Hodo, hearing his explanation, Hodo seemed to realize something, and to regret asking the question. Ah, there it is. I think he saw it. She really is a good sort, Lawrence thought, and he continued, hoping to assuage her regret. But if I could open up a shop, I'd become a true citizen of the town. I could make friends, and it would be simple to search for a wife. It would be a great solace to me to know where I would be buried when I die. Though finding a bride who will stay beside me even in death, that will take some luck. Hodo laughed slightly. Among traveling merchants, the act of going to a new city, dig up new goods, was known as searching for a wife, as it carried a sense of going to find something rare and valuable. In reality, though, simply opening up a shop did not guarantee that one would be close to the citizens of the town. Nonetheless, being able to stay near the same piece of land for a long time was every merchant's dream. It would be bad for me if you opened up a shop, though, said Hodo. Why is that? Said Lawrence, turning around. Although her smile had not disappeared, it was tinged with sadness. If you open up shop, you wouldn't want to leave it. I'll have to either travel alone or find a different companion. Lawrence then remembered that Hodo said she wished to travel the world for a while, and then return to her homeland in the north. But she had her wits. She had the money she made from the fur sale. Surely she would be fine on her own. You could travel alone, though, right? Lawrence had no particular agenda behind these words. But upon hearing them, Hodo silently looked down and ate her bread. I'm tired of being alone, she blurted out, looking suddenly childish as she swung her legs, which didn't quite reach the floor, over the edge of the bed. She fell back and seemed so small that even the flickering candlelight threatened to swallow her. Lawrence recalled the time that Hodo had so fondly reminisced about her friend from centuries earlier. Dwelling so nostalgically on the past proved she was lonely. He remembered how she looked then, curled up as if to protect herself from the storm of isolation. Lawrence chose his words very carefully to avoid hurting her feelings. She didn't often show this side of herself. I expect I'll stay with you until you're back home in the North Country, though. He had little choice but to say as much. But nonetheless, Hodo looked up with the expression that said, "Really?" in a rather humble manner. Lawrence carefully concealed the excitement he felt and continued. Even when the money comes in, I won't be able to open up a store right away. Truly? Why would I lie? Said Lawrence. He couldn't help smiling a bit. Fuck. He couldn't help smiling bitterly. Hodo too smiled, but in relief. The slight downward cast of her eyes made her seem somehow tinged with loneliness. Lawrence was struck with the incongruent realization that her eyelashes were really quite long. So, come on, don't make that face, he added. A city merchant would probably have been able to come up with something more effective to say. But unfortunately, Lawrence was always traveling and forced into a life absent of women. Still, Hodo looked up and smiled slightly. She assented with a nod. Seeing such a small girl, so meek, made seem almost fleeting somehow. The wolf ears she normally held so high lay flat and directionless, and her proud tail curled up uncertainly next to her body. It was suddenly silent. Lawrence continued to watch Hodo, who seemed unable to return his gaze. She glanced at him just once, then quickly looked away. Lawrence felt he had seen this before. Sifting through his memories, he realized it had been the apple incident. Shortly after they'd arrived in Pazio. She'd wanted apples then. What did she want now? Understanding another person's desire was a singularly important skill for a merchant. Lawrence took a deep breath and stood. Surprised by the sudden noise, Hodo's ears and tail twitched. Still, she regarded Lawrence. Flustered by the sudden approach, he looked away. She reached her hands out to him as he stood before her. Tremulously, almost frightened. Was it crying in your sleep that made your eyes red? Lawrence took her hand and sat beside her, pulled her close and held her gently. When I... Okay. 1 second. Next picture. There we go. When I open my eyes, they're gone. Yue, Inti, Haro, Mayuri. They're all gone. They're nowhere. She was talking about her dream. Lawrence stroked her head softly as she sniffled. The names she'd mentioned must have been her wolf friends, perhaps even fellow wolf gods. But he was far from insensitive enough to ask. I can live for centuries, so I thought I would go traveling. I was sure, so very sure, that I would see them all again. But they were gone. There was no one. Hodo's hand trembled as she grasped Lawrence's shirt. Lawrence himself didn't want to be plagued by such dreams. If he were to return to his hometown, not a soul would remember him. Sometimes he had similar nightmares. There were tales of merchants who had left their homeland and not returned for 20 or 30 years. They would finally return home to find their village simply gone. It might have been razed to the ground in a war, or stricken by a plague or famine. There's any number of possible reasons. This is why a traveling merchant's dream of opening a shop. A shop meant a home, making a place for oneself. I don't want to open my eyes and find no one there. I'm tired of being alone. It's cold, it's lonely. Lawrence remained silent at her outpouring of emotion, only stroking her head. She was so distressed that anything he said would likely fall on deaf ears. So he couldn't think of anything appropriate to say anyways. He himself had been assailed by the winds of loneliness when riding in his wagon or entering a new town. There is nothing one could do in such times. Nothing one could hear and find consoling. The only thing to do was find something to grab hold of and wait out the storm. Hodo continued to cry. Lawrence held her, and at length the waves of emotion subsided, and she let go of his clothes, looking up at him. He let go of her, and she sat up, still sniffling. How humiliating, said Hodo, her nose and eyes still red, but her voice calm. Traveling merchants have dreams like that too, said Lawrence. Hodo giggled shyly and sniffled through her own stuffed up nose. Your face is a mess. Hang on. Lawrence stood and took a paper from his desk. The drawing and figures on the sheet were dry, so I thought it'd be okay for her to blow her nose on it. But this is your... I always throw them away when I'm done. The deal isn't even finished yet. It's too early to be optimistic, said Lawrence with a smile. Hodo returned her smile and took the paper. After blowing her nose mightily on it and wiping her eyes, she looked much better. She sighed, took a deep breath, then looked sheepish once more. Seeing her like this, Lawrence wanted to embrace her again, but refrained. Hodo was herself again, and he would likely be made light of. I am in your debt now, she said, picking up the now crumbled bread and eating it. It was unclear whether or not she discerned his thoughts. Relieved in any case that he hadn't been chided, he watched her as she finished eating and yawned, dusting her hands free from the crumbs. She was probably tired from crying. I'm still sleepy. Can you sleep? Soon, yes. Staying awake any longer would be a waste of candlelight. Spoken like a true merchant, said Hodo, smiling as she sat cross-legged on the bed, then lay down. After taking one last look at her, Lawrence blew the candle out. Darkness fell instantly, as his eyes were still used to the light. It seemed pitch black. The weather was clear, and the stars were out. He couldn't yet see the faint light filtered through the wooden window. As he waited for his eyes to adjust, Lawrence felt his way to his own bed beneath the window, in the corner of the room, careful not to trip over Hodo's bed on the way. After he finally made it, and feeling the edge of the bed, lay down on it. In the past, Lawrence had bruised himself by carelessly flinging himself toward the bed and accidentally hitting the edge. He had learned to be careful. But there was no way for him to be prepared for what awaited him. As he started to lie down in the bed, he realized that somebody was already in it. What are you? Don't be such a prude, said Hodo in an irritated voice that was nonetheless flirtatious. Lawrence let himself be pulled down, and Hodo pressed herself against him. Unlike before, when he'd held her gently. This embrace was tight, and he felt her unmistakably soft body. Lawrence's rising heartbeat could not be controlled. He was a healthy man after all. He'd embraced her tightly almost before he'd realized it. Can't breathe, came Hodo's constrained voice. He returned to his senses and realized that he relaxed his arms, but did not let go of her. She'd made no move to push him away. Instead, she drew close to his ear and whispered, "Have your eyes adjusted yet? What do you mean?" He was about to say, but Hodo cut him off with a finger and pressed to his lips. "I finally remembered what I was going to say to you." Her whispering voice was itchy. Itchy indeed, though her sweetly intimate tone was gone, replaced by an alarming edge to her voice. "It's a bit late. There are 3 people outside the door. I doubt they're a guest." One second. Apparently there's somebody at the door. Be right back.
She grabbed my hand, asked me what I think about. But you know what? You know.
Be right back. One of the neighbor kids kicked a ball over our fence. I gotta go grab it for him.
I stay. Remember this feeling in my heart and the breeze. We're frozen, the time like endless.
Sorry about that. Was not expecting that. What?
She lights in the silence. She grabbed my hand, asked me what I think.
I see that Cam replied more to that. I didn't know he replied more to it.
Lie deep in our woods.
Still. Lawrence finally realized that Hodo was already wearing her cloak. She rummaged around quietly, and soon all of Lawrence's belongings appeared on his chest. We're on the second story. Fortunately, there's no one outside. Are you ready? Growing excited in a completely different sense now, Hodo got up. Lawrence pretended to draw the blanket over himself. And put on his clothes, just as he is affixing his silver dagger to his waist. Hodo spoke loudly, her voice purposefully carrying the weight behind the door. Come, see my body neath the moonlight. As soon as she'd finished, Lawrence heard a window clatter open, and Hodo perched on the windowsill and jumped down without hesitation. Lawrence scrambled after her, putting his foot on the sill. He didn't hesitate either, because behind him, the sound of the door being pried open, followed by heavy footsteps. He felt unpleasantly weightless for a moment, but his feet soon collided hard with the ground. Unable to bear the force of the impact, Lawrence landed in a squatting position. He is lucky he had not broken his leg, but Hodo still laughed loudly at him, although she did extend her hand. We'll have to run. We have no time to collect the horse. A stunned Lawrence glanced back at the stables. The horse had been strong and cheap, but more importantly, the first thing he had ever bought. Part of him wanted to make a break for the stables, but prudence told him not to. Hodo's course of action was the right one. Lawrence clenched his teeth and restrained himself. They will gain nothing by killing your horse. We'll wait for things to calm before retrieving it, yes? Said Hodo, by way of consolation. Lawrence could only hope that it was true. He nodded, took a deep breath, grabbing her outstretched hand, and pulled himself up. Oh, also, Hodo took the pouch that hung from her neck and undid the string that bound it closed. She poured roughly half of the wheat it contained into her hand. Just in case, you should take some too, she said, casually thrusting the grains into the pocket on his chest, without waiting for his reply. They felt warm. It was probably Hodo's body heat. After all, it was the wheat in which she lived. Right. Now let's run. Hodo smiled as though she was speaking to a trusted friend. Lawrence was about to reply, but simply nodded with his head and dashed with her toward the town in the night. So, what I was going to say was this. If the Malone Company could check up on that boy, surely the reverse is true. His backers were bound to be alerted. If they discover we're going to another company with a deal, they'll try to silence us, no? The only light on the cobbled path was the moon, but it was enough to see by. They continued to run without spotting another person, then turned down an alley. Lawrence could barely see anything in the darkness there. Hodo led him on, tugging on his hand as she ran, Lawrence stumbling after her. They ran near an intersection and saw a group of men behind them, shouting. He caught the words Malone Company among their shouts. They too knew that the only place Lawrence and Hodo would find sanctuary was the Malone Company. Oops, I don't know the way, said Hodo, still pulling on Lawrence's hand as it came to a fork. Lawrence looked up, checked the moon's position, and Faze mentally roughed out a map of Patio. This way. They ran down the western fork. This part of Patio was old. Buildings were constantly being rebuilt, and the road wound through them like a snake. But Lawrence had visited Patio many times, furtively checking their position against the main road as they went. The pair came closer and closer to the Malone Company, but their opponents were no fools. Stop, there's a guard. They needed to only turn right at this intersection, follow the road to its end, then turn left. 4 blocks later, they'd be at the Malone Company. There should still be men loading and unloading the wagons at this hour. If they could make it there, the thugs wouldn't be able to touch them. In a city of commerce, the best security was the wealth implied by the signboard of a large business. So close. I've not been hunted in many years. I've not hunted in many years, but this is my first time being hunted. This is no time for jokes. Oh well, we'll have to take the long way around. Lawrence backtracked to the original road. Turning right along it, he decided that to take an alley after the next block and circle around to the Malone Company. But he was stopped after he made his first right turn. Hodo grabbed his shirt and pushed him against the wall. Did you find them? They should be close by. Find them. The current of fear that ran through him was worse than when he was being chased by wolves in the forest. 2 men came dashing violently out of a nearby alley. If Hodo hadn't stopped, she and Lawrence might have run right into them. Damn, there's so many of them. They know the area. "'Tis a bad situation," said Hodo. Her hood was drawn, exposing her wolf ears as she scanned... her hood was down, exposing her wolf ears as she scanned left and right. Shall we split up? Not a bad idea, but I have a better one. Which is... Footsteps could be heard nearby. Undoubtedly, every main road now had a guard on it. They'd be cornered as soon as they tried to use one. I'll head down a main road and draw them off. Then you take the chance to... Wait, you can't... Now you listen. If we split up, you're the one that will be caught. On my own, I won't be caught, but you will. And when that happens, who is going to go to the company? Shall I show them my ears and tail and beg for your rescue? Well? Lawrence had no retort. He had already informed the Malone Company about the depreciating Trenny silver. They might even abandon him and Hodo both, should that happen. His only recourse would be to play himself as a trump card and threaten to invest in their opponent. And only he can conduct those negotiations. Either way, it's no good. If the Malone Company sees your ears and tail, they may turn you over to the church. And I didn't mention the Medio Company. So all I need to do is avoid capture. And should I be caught, I'll just hide my ears and tails for a day while you come to rescue me. Perhaps because of her bravado, Lawrence wanted to stop her from doing this, and that much more. She smiled up at him. I'm Hodo the Wise Wolf. Even if my ears and tail are discovered, I'll pretend to be a mad wolf, and none will want to come near me. She grinned, showing her fangs. Yet all Lawrence could think of was of embracing the sobbing girl who spoke of loneliness. With her impossibly slight form, he couldn't imagine turning her over to these hired thugs. Still smiling, Hodo continued, "Your dream is to own a shop. is it not? And just a moment ago, I said I was in your debt. Are you trying to make a dishonorable wolf out of me? Don't be foolish. If you're caught, you'll be killed. What honor is there in that? I'll wind up owing you a debt I can never repay. Raged Lawrence, his voice low. Hodo smiled thinly and shook her head. She poked him lightly in the chest with her slender forefinger. Loneliness is a deadly illness. We are even. Lawrence had no words at the sight of her calm, grateful smile. Hodo took advantage of the silence and continued. Besides, you're a quick thinker and clever. I promise. I trust you. I know you'll come for me. She quickly embraced the silent Lawrence and then slipped free of his grasp, dashing away. There they are, on Lorne Road. As soon as Hodo ran out of the alley, the shouts could be heard, and the pursuer's footsteps grew distant. Lawrence clamped his eyes shut for a moment, then forced them open and ran. If he'd missed his chance, he might never see Hodo again. He quickly ran down the dark alley, stumbling a few times, but always moving forward, crossed the whole road and entered another alley, heading west. The commotion continued, but his opponent could not afford to make a noise could not afford to make a noise for long, lest they alert the town guard. He continued running, sprinting against the main road, and heading down another alley, only to turn right, then left on the next main road to reach the Malone Company. Just one? There should be two. Lawrence heard the voice come from behind him. Had Hodo been captured? Did she escape? If she'd escaped, that was fine. No, he hoped desperately that it was so. He jumped into the moonlit boulevard and turned immediately left. Soon he heard voices behind him. There he is! Ignoring them, he sprinted with all his strength, hurling himself against the gates of the Malone Company's loading area. I'm Lawrence. I came earlier today. Help! I'm being pursued. Wakened into action by the commotion, the men on duty opened the iron gate. Immediately after Lawrence disappeared behind it, a group of men carrying wooden staves rushed the gate. Wait, you... Give that man to us, said one of them, hitting the gate with a staff. Men began trying to use force to pull the gate open. But those who held the gate closed were on the opposite side. We're used to long days of loading and unloading. The gate would not open so easily. A bearded man on the far side, middle-aged, emerged from within the company building. Scum, he roared. Whose house do you think this is? It is a Malone Company's Patio branch, owned by the Honorable Marquis Malone, recognized by His Grace, the 33rd Archduke of Rondale. Anyone within these walls is a guest of the Marquis. Know that when you strike these gates, you strike His Grace's throne. Cowed by the man's grand speech, the attackers faltered. Just then, the whistle of the city guard sounded. The men seemed to realize that this was their chance to escape. They soon scattered. Within the gates, everything was still for a while. At length, the sound of the footfalls and whistles faded, and the man who delivered the impressive speech finally spoke up again. That's quite a commotion so late at night. What's going on here? My humblest apologies, sir. I offer my deepest gratitude for sanctuary. Save your thanks for the Grand Marquis of Malone. What did they want? I expect they were from the Medio Company. Undoubtedly, they are displeased with the deal I struck with your company. Oh. You're a merchant who will take risk. I haven't seen much of your kind lately. Lawrence wiped the sweat from his forehead and smiled. It's my partner that's the reckless one. Must be rough. I don't want to think about it. That same partner may have been captured. Would it be possible for me to speak with the branch manager, Sir Marhite? We're a foreign company. Raids and arson are a fact of life for us. He's already been contacted, said the man with a hearty laugh. I shall hydrate. It drove home to Lawrence how formidable the man who ran this operation must be. Perhaps they really would be able to guarantee his safety. Uncertainty swirled in his mind, but Lawrence soon composed himself. He would get them to guarantee not only his safety, but his profit too. His pride as a merchant and his debt to Horo, who'd taken such a risk for him, demanded no less. Lawrence took a deep breath. Anyway, come inside, will you? Even wine gets better with time, said the man. Lawrence, thinking about Horo as he was, found it hard to calm himself. Still, the old man was used to situations like this, and seeing Lawrence's agitated state, offered some consolation. In any case, if your partner's alright, he'll come here, eh? As long as you give us his name and his description, we'll shelter him, even if the church itself comes after him. It was an exaggeration, but it put Lawrence at ease. My thanks, surely. No, without question, she'll come. Her name is Horo. She's a small girl. Wears a hood over her head. A girl, eh? Is she a beauty? Lawrence understood the man was asking in order to ease his fears. And so he answered. He smiled and answered. Of 10 people, all of them would turn to look at her. That's something to look forward to then, laughed the big man heartily as he led Lawrence into the company building. Let's see. You know what? I might just finish chapter 4 and then the next reading session will be long. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. And chat for a bit, and then that'll give me more time to do the outdoors chore. The outdoors chores I need to do. Eight or 9 out of 10 of them will be Medio men. Although he'd probably just been awakened, Marhite's manner was no different than it had been earlier in the day when he had skipped a pleasantry. I agree. They have discovered that I came to ask for your assistance. That was my plan for the silver coin in trying to stop us. Lawrence didn't want his agitation to be obvious, but he couldn't help worrying about Horo as he talked. Horo being who she was, he thought there was a chance that she'd escape. But it was best to assume the worst. In any case, he needed guarantees of both his and Horo's safety as fast as he could get them. And for that, he needed the Malone Company. I believe my companion may have been captured. If so, it seems obvious to me that negotiations will be impossible. Will the Malone lend us aid? Asked Lawrence, only avoiding lending or leaning over the table with effort. Marhite seemed deep in thought and did not face Lawrence. Finally, he looked up slowly. You say your companion may have been captured. Yes. I see. After the commotion here, I sent some of my men to follow them. They reported seeing a girl taken, apparently against her will. Despite more than half expecting Marhite's words, Lawrence felt them grab at his heart and shake him desperately. He swallowed his shock and managed to get some words out. That's probably my companion, Horo. She acted as a decoy so I could make it here. I see, but what would make them want to capture your partner? Lawrence had to almost physically restrain himself from shouting. He couldn't afford to lose his temper in the presence of a man like Marhite. I expect it's because we came to join your company. We joined with your company in trying to thwart their plans. Marhite's countenance remained impassive, in spite of Lawrence's heated response. He stared down at the table, appeared deep in thought. Lawrence, distressed, couldn't help bouncing his leg impatiently. He was about to jump up from his chair and began shouting when Marhite spoke again. It's a bit strange, though, don't you think? What's strange? Demanded Lawrence, finally jumping out of his chair, causing Marhite to blink rapidly for a moment before regaining his composure. Marhite reached his hand out to the distressed visitor. Please, calm yourself. Something is strange about all of this. What's strange about this? Just as your company was able to easily check up on Zarin, it was simple for the Medio company to see if anybody was interfering with their plan. True, given that their headquarters are here. So, what is strange? Indeed, I understand now. This truly is strange, said Marhite. Lawrence had no choice but to hear him out. I was thinking, how did they come to realize that you were conspiring with our company? Surely because I came here frequently. Also, if they noticed that you started collecting trendy silver, all they'd have to do is put two and two together. That is the strange part. You're a traveling merchant. After all, visiting us several times to negotiate is entirely natural. But if they linked that to your company interest in Trenny silver, the fact that I'm the ones that are contacted, no, it's still strange. Why? Lawrence did not understand. Impatience colored his voice. Naturally, the point at which we started gathering Trenny silver was after we finished negotiating with you. Consider this, Mr. Lawrence. I cannot say how it will happen, but if you collect Trenny silver, your profit is guaranteed. We certainly do not base anything on that alone, would we? Ah, hey there, Tristan. So far so good. I think I'm just going to finish up chapter 4 and then get to the outdoor chores. I got to trim up some of the hedges and mow the lawn. So, yep. Finish up my stream and then go outside and touch grass. So. Yep, pretty much. The fact that we are indeed collecting Trenny silver means we understand the entirety of this opportunity. Undoubtedly, the Medio company also knows this. There's simply no reason to take you as hostages. Surely you don't mean... Marhite nodded, his face expressing sad regret. I do. We already have the information we need to turn a profit. What happens to you now is not our concern. Feeling dizzy, Lawrence listened to one side. It was true. Lawrence was a single traveling merchant. No one was looking out for him. I hope you will understand how difficult it is for me to say this. But we've already invested a significant amount of capital based on the information you brought us. The profit will be immense. If we must choose between bearing your grudge or giving up the return, then Marhite sighed. I'm sorry, but I must choose the former. He said quietly. Still. Lawrence didn't hear what Marhite said after that. In some corner of his mind, he wondered if this is what it felt like to be met with bankruptcy. His arms, legs, indeed his entire body felt frozen. He wasn't even sure if he was still breathing. He was now, as of this moment, abandoned by the Malone Company. Which meant Hodo had also been abandoned. Hodo would given herself up to let him escape, believing that Lawrence would be able to negotiate her rescue with the Malone Company. Lawrence recalled the expression on her face when she spoke of returning to North Country. When hostages had outlived their usefulness, their subsequent prospects were clear. Men were sold to slave ships and women to brothels. Although Hodo had her wolf ears and tail, there were rich eccentrics who collected such demon-possessed girls. Undoubtedly, the Medio Company would know one or two such collectors. Lawrence thought of Hodo being sold. He thought of how a wealthy, demon-obsessed collector would treat such a girl. No, he would not allow it. Lawrence straightened himself on the chair. He immediately began thinking he had to save her. Please wait, he said after several moments. If your company has come to this conclusion, surely the other side has done so as well. The Medio Company wasn't run by fools. They got after Lawrence and his companion and dispatched many men to do it, even risking confrontation with the town guard. Yes, that is what struck me as so strange. I hadn't finished speaking, you see. If the need arises, I will bear the grudge you would harbor. I will bear the grudge that you will harbor toward the company. Lawrence now remembered that Marhite had ended his statement with "still" and hung his head in red-faced shame. I can see that your companion is very precious to you, but letting your emotions dull your thinking is misplacing your priorities. My apologies. Not at all. If my wife were in danger, I too would likely find it impossible to calm myself, Marhite said, smiling. Lawrence saw this and bowed his head again. Although his heart thudded with the word wife, he realized that if Hodo were a mere traveling companion, he would not be so upset, and Hodo herself would not have sacrificed herself to help him escape. Back to the problem at hand. Our opponent is a candidate company who will not be easily thwarted. You and your partner have no theoretical value to them, yet they've targeted you. There must be a reason. You have any idea what it might be? Lawrence did not have any such idea. When he thought the situation through, though, he realized there must have been some special reason for them to be captured. He mulled it over. There was only one possibility. No, that can't be. Have you thought of something? Lawrence had immediately dismissed the possibility when it first occurred to him. It simply couldn't be. Yet it was the only thing he could think of. The prophet before us is almost unimaginable. We need to only realize it. If you thought of something, no matter how trivial, please tell me. Marhite's request was entirely reasonable, but Lawrence's realization was not something to be shared lightly. Lawrence thought of Holo, who was undoubtedly not human. Most people would call her a demon. Such demons were either hidden away at home or given away to the church. Neither was a way to live. Once the church cast its eye on a person, he or she would certainly be executed. Holo was indistinguishable from a possessed individual. The Medio Company had used her to blackmail the Malone Company. If the Malone Company did not want it revealed in the church, they'd had dealings with someone possessed by a demon, they would have to withdraw. It came to an inquisition. The Medio Company could righteously accuse the Malone Company and Lawrence of having entered into an evil contract with a demonic entity. It went without saying that Holo would be burned at the stake. Yet Lawrence still found himself skeptical. Who had discovered Holo's wolf ears and tail then? And when? Given Holo's normal appearance, it wasn't something easily discernible. He believed that no one except himself knew the truth of her identity. "Mr. Lawrence," said Marhite, putting an end to Lawrence's musings, "have you thought of something?" Lawrence couldn't help nodding at Marhite's patient question, which meant he would now have to divulge the truth. But if the real reason for the pursuit was something else, he would have exposed Holo's secret for naught. In the worst case, Malone Company could turn the tables on the Medio Company by accusing them of using a demon girl to blackmail them. If that happened, there would be no hope for Holo. Marhite gazed seriously across the table. Lawrence saw no avenue of escape, but they were interrupted. "Excuse me," said a Malone Company representative, entering the room. "What is it?" "We just received a letter. It regards to our current situation." The employee held out a neatly sealed envelope. Marhite took it and flipped it over. The sender's name was missing, but it did have a destination. To the wolf in the forest in which it resides. In that instant, Lawrence realized he'd been right. "I'm sorry, but might I look at the letter first?" Marhite looked at Lawrence dubiously, but at length nodded and handed the envelope over. Lawrence thanked him, taking a deep breath, broke the seal. There was a letter inside, and a bit what might have been Holo's brown fur. The letter was brief. "We have the wolf. The church's doors are always open. If you don't want the wolf inside your home, shut your doors and keep your family inside." There was no longer any room for doubt. Lawrence returned the letter to Marhite. "My companion Holo is a wolf god of the harvest," he said in a wrung-out voice. Marhite's eyes opened as wide as they'd ever gotten. Not too bad for timing. Went through chapter 4 in 2-ish, just a hair over 2 hours. Had to step away a couple of times for whatever. Which that was, it looks like, 100. Well, so 40 pages, almost. That's not too bad. Damn it. I dropped my book. What book are you reading? The book I'm reading is Spice and Wolf Volume 1. That was just chapter 4 I finished. It's the light novel version, obviously, because manga's not exactly gonna translate properly to us. Crimson Ramen, thank you for the follow. How are you doing? You're good. Yeah, no, I just finished up chapter 4. So I'm thinking next Sunday I will do chapter 5, 6, and the prologue. Because if I do a sizable amount of the chores today, as far as the outdoor is concerned, it means I'll have a bit more time to next week, where they won't need to be done for a little bit. Well, still, I really do love this fucking series. Fauci. Gotta love cats. But still. That is an interesting name, though. Crimson Ramen. You're a half demon. Not food. Look, depending on who you're talking to, ramen is the food of demons. Hi, Milo. Well, it's either the food of demons, or ramen is the food that reminds them of the hell they had to endure when they were the brokest of the broke, and they just needed sustenance to get through their college work. Okay. But still. Hopefully what is it? Effectively an audiobook. Hopefully that's working well for you guys. Let's see who is currently live right now. Let's go. You know what? She's always pretty helpful and supportive. Let's go ahead and raid Butterfly. Still. You guys are all amazing. Next planned stream will be Tuesday night. I will be doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. If anybody would like to try scheduling a collab, Wednesday is not called for, so feel free. I know Tuesday I should be joining Mick for part of her birthday stream. So, take care, everybody. I know today was a little bit short, but it kind of is what it is. Take care, everybody. Have a good day, night, whatever it might be for y'all. And see you Tuesday. And boop.